Mastering phrasal verbs helps girls sound confident and natural in English conversations. When we speak English, especially in informal or everyday situations, it's not just about grammar and vocabulary, it's about how we say things. That's where phrasal verbs come in. These little combinations of verbs and prepositions, like pick up, turn off, or wake up, are everywhere in spoken English. They give our sentences rhythm, life, and personality. And for girls who want to speak English with ease, grace, and confidence, learning how to use phrasal verbs naturally is absolutely essential. Imagine this: you're chatting with a friend, and instead of saying, "I started exercising again," you say, "I've taken up yoga again." That tiny shift not only sounds more natural, it sounds more like a native speaker. And that's the power of phrasal verbs. They let you step into the language, not just speak from the outside. They help you blend in, connect, and express yourself in ways that are subtle, playful, and full of meaning. Phrasal verbs are how we talk about routines, emotions, relationships, and even our moods. When you're tired, you don't just say, "I'm tired." You might say, "I'm totally worn out today." When you want someone to relax, you don't say, "Please be calm." You say, "Chill out." These are phrases we use every day without thinking, and once you learn them, you'll be surprised how quickly they become a part of your own voice. Learning these verbs also helps build your confidence, not just in the words you say, but in how you carry yourself while speaking. There's something incredibly empowering about being able to say exactly what you feel with clarity and style. For example, instead of saying, "I stopped trying," you can say, "I gave up." It's shorter, more direct, and more expressive. Or imagine someone says something rude. Instead of saying, "I didn't respond," you could say, "I just brushed it off." That one phrase tells a story, a mood, and your attitude all in a few words. Girls who speak with confidence often use language that reflects who they are: energetic, thoughtful, bold, or calm. And phrasal verbs give you that flexibility. Want to sound fun and upbeat? Use phrases like hang out, pig out, or mess around. Want to sound focused and driven? Try keep up, finish off, or hand in. Whatever your vibe, there are phrasal verbs that fit your style like accessories for your language. But it's not just about the way they sound, it's about what they do. These little phrases carry emotions: come over, feels friendly; do up, sounds creative; jazz up, is full of color and energy. They let you paint your thoughts with more detail without needing to add more sentences. You don't just say things, you express them. If you're learning English and want to stand out, whether you're posting on social media, speaking in class, or chatting with friends, using phrasal verbs puts you a step ahead. They make your English sound polished but relaxed, smart but effortless. It's the kind of English that turns heads and makes people listen, not because you're trying too hard, but because you've mastered something that many others overlook. Think about when you're talking about your day. You could say, "I stayed home and cleaned," or "I stayed in and tidied up." Same meaning, but the second version, it sounds like you really know what you're doing with the language. It's fluent, it's stylish, it's you. That's the magic of mastering phrasal verbs. They don't just help you speak, they help you shine when you speak. They make your words feel alive, and more importantly, they make you feel more connected to the way English is really used. And the more naturally you use them, the more confident you become. It's like unlocking a new level in your language journey, one that feels exciting, empowering, and truly your own. So the next time you pick up a new phrase or hear a friend use something like log on, miss out, or come over, try using it yourself, say it out loud, put it into a sentence, feel how it changes the tone, the rhythm, the vibe of your conversation, and with every new phrasal verb you learn, You're not just learning English, you're becoming someone who owns the language. That's the kind of confidence that sticks with you. These 20 everyday phrasal verbs make communication more expressive and relatable. One of the most powerful things about language is how it allows us to connect not just through words, but through tone, feeling, and rhythm. And when we use phrasal verbs in our everyday speech, we bring our language to life. These phrases are more than just grammar patterns. They're tools that let us sound natural, friendly, and emotionally in tune with the people we're speaking to. They help us describe real situations with real feelings, and that's what makes conversations meaningful. Take a simple moment like waking up in the morning. You could say, "I got out of bed," and that would be correct. But saying, "I woke up late and had to rush out," paints a much clearer, more expressive picture. It tells a story. The phrase "rush out" gives energy to the sentence. It makes it relatable, especially to anyone who's ever overslept before and had to hurry. That's what phrasal verbs do. They add emotion, action, and attitude to what we're saying. When you're talking to friends, explaining your day, or telling a story, using phrases like pick up, turn off, or check out makes everything feel more real. It shows that you're not just translating your thoughts, you're living the language. Instead of saying, "I ended my homework," you say, "I finished off my homework." That slight change makes your English feel alive. Or if you're describing something exciting, like a new outfit or a recipe, saying "jazz up" instead of "make more interesting" instantly adds flair to your words. It's like giving your language a bit of sparkle. Phrasal verbs are also incredibly flexible. They work in so many situations. You can use them to describe what you're doing, log on, hand in, go out, how you're feeling, give up, mess around, do without, or what you think about something, check out, look up, miss out. The beauty is in their variety and the way they help you say a lot with just a few words. That's what makes them perfect for everyday conversations, and they make the way you speak sound more personal. If someone asks how your weekend was, you could say, "I didn't do much." But if you say, "I just stayed in and messed around with my art supplies," you instantly sound more relatable. It's like opening a little window into your life. You're not just giving an answer, you're creating a moment, a shared experience. That's what draws people in when you speak. Another great thing about phrasal verbs is how natural they sound in casual speech. They're part of the language that people really use. In fact, if you listen to native speakers, especially in the UK, you'll hear phrasal verbs everywhere. They don't say "submit your homework." They say "hand it in." They don't say "start exercising." They say "take up running." And by learning these everyday phrases, you're learning how to sound like part of the conversation, not just someone learning from a textbook. Using phrasal verbs also helps you respond quickly and naturally in conversation. Instead of pausing to think of a more complicated expression, you can simply say, "I'll come over later," or "let's check it out." These short, familiar phrases help you stay in the flow of speaking. They give you rhythm, and that rhythm makes everything smoother, not just for you, but for the people listening to you. It's like dancing with words, and because phrasal verbs are so common, they also help you understand others better. Whether you're watching a British show, reading a blog, or listening to a friend speak, you'll hear things like "knock off work," "pay off the loan," or "wake up early." The more you know them, the more fluent you feel, not just in speaking, but in understanding the world around you. What's also lovely is how these verbs let you be playful and expressive. Pig out sounds funny and casual, perfect for a story about eating too much ice cream. Do up your room sounds creative, like you're transforming a space. Come over feels warm, like you're inviting someone into your life. Each phrase carries its own mood, its own tone, and using them lets you show your personality in your speech. In the end, using these 20 everyday phrasal verbs is about much more than memorizing vocabulary. It's about building a voice in English that's real, expressive, and completely yours. When you use them, you don't just speak, you connect, and that connection is what makes communication truly powerful. Each phrasal verb includes real, life example sentences to boost understanding. It's one thing to learn the meaning of a phrase, but it's another thing entirely to see how it lives and breathes in real conversations. That's why it's so important to not just memorize phrasal verbs on their own, but to understand how they're actually used in daily life, in casual speech, in those everyday moments where English flows naturally. And one of the most effective ways to do that is through example sentences that reflect real life situations. Take the phrasal verb pick up. It can mean many things depending on the context: to collect someone, to learn something new, or even to grab something from the floor. But let's focus on just one example. I need to pick up my little sister from school. That's not just a sentence, it's a scene. You can imagine the person, maybe checking the time, grabbing their keys, and heading out the door. It gives you a mental image, and that helps the phrase stick in your mind far more effectively than a plain definition ever could. Now think about give up. On paper, it just means to stop doing something. But in life, it's full of emotion. She gave up chocolate for a whole month. You can feel the effort, the struggle, the decision behind it. Or, I almost gave up, but I kept going. That sentence has weight. It shows resilience. It teaches you how the phrasal verb works not just grammatically, but emotionally too. And when you feel the meaning of a phrase, you truly understand it. Another one is turn off. At first glance, it sounds simple to stop something from working. But let's put it into a daily scene. Can you turn off the light? I'm trying to sleep. Suddenly, you see a room, maybe someone lying in bed, the soft glow of a lamp being switched off. That moment helps you connect the phrase to real life. And the next time you're in a similar situation, that phrase will be right there, ready to use. The value of example sentences isn't just in helping you remember the phrase, it's in showing you how to use it naturally. Like with wake up, the simple example, I usually wake up at 6 a.m., that tells you it's a regular action, or she woke up late and missed her class, that shows cause and effect. Both are real, relatable, and easy to imagine. And that kind of learning helps you speak without overthinking. Let's say you're trying to use log in. The phrase itself is used all the time in our digital lives, but instead of just thinking to access an account, picture the sentence, I can't log in, I forgot my password. You've probably been there yourself, right? That familiarity anchors the phrase in your memory. It's not abstract, it's personal. Or take look up. A great example might be, I didn't know the word, so I looked it up online. That's something any language learner can relate to. You feel the experience, the action, the solution. It's no longer a phrase you might use, it's a phrase you have lived or will soon live. Even fun phrases like pig out become memorable when they're placed in realistic, playful examples. We pigged out on pizza during the sleepover. It paints such a vivid, joyful picture: laughter, snacks, friends. That's how language becomes more than learning. It becomes connection. And when we say things like mess around, it might sound silly on its own, but add a sentence like, we just messed around at the park after school, and it becomes warm, informal, and perfectly natural. You learn not just the meaning, but the tone, the way it feels to use it. Using real, life example sentences for these phrasal verbs gives your learning depth. It moves beyond the surface. It shows you how each verb can shift in mood, in meaning, in impact depending on where and how it's used. It's a way of learning that's active, emotional, and incredibly effective. So every time you come across a new phrasal verb, don't just memorize the words, place them into a sentence you can see, hear, or even feel. Let it live in your imagination and then use it in your speech, in your writing, in your everyday life. That's how language becomes yours. British English pronunciation and usage make this lesson elegant and authentic. There's something uniquely graceful and refined about the way British English sounds. It carries a certain rhythm, a clarity, and a softness that many learners admire. And when it comes to mastering phrasal verbs, using them with the correct pronunciation and tone, especially in the British style, brings a level of authenticity that truly enhances your communication. When we talk about sounding natural in English, pronunciation is just as important as vocabulary. You could know all the words, all the meanings, even all the grammar rules. But if your pronunciation isn't aligned with how those words are really spoken, it creates a barrier. That's why learning how phrasal verbs are pronounced in everyday British English is so valuable. It allows you to blend your knowledge with natural expression. It brings a flow to your speaking that feels effortless and polished. For example, take the phrasal verb wake up. In British English, you might hear it pronounced with a soft, even tone wake up, and not rushed, not clipped, just gently connected. There's a smooth rise and fall to the way it's said. Or consider give up. The V and the up are linked together so neatly. It's not just two words placed side by side. It becomes one idea, one unit of expression. That kind of pronunciation makes your English sound not only correct, but truly alive. And British English isn't just about the way words are said, it's also about how they are used in different settings. The cultural nuances, the context, the phrasing, all of it adds to the elegance. For instance, in British English, someone might say, "I handed in my assignment," rather than "turned in," which is more common in American usage. It's a subtle difference, but it reflects a certain tone, often more formal, more measured, yet still conversational. That variation is what gives your English that authentic edge. Let's think about knock off. In British usage, it often means finishing work for the day. You might hear, "I usually knock off around 5." There's a lightness to that expression, something casual yet tidy. It's not just about finishing a task, it's about knowing how to say it in a way that fits into a particular social rhythm. That's what British English offers, a sense of placement, of when and how to say something to match the moment. Phrasal verbs like do up, jazz up, or come over all take on a charming dimension when pronounced with that British clarity, crisp consonants, soft endings, and a sense of balance in tone. And when you practice these phrasal verbs in full example sentences, said in that smooth British accent, they become easier to remember and easier to use. It's not just about copying sounds. It's about feeling the language, its tone, its pace, its subtle personality. And it's in the little details, the way the British tend to pronounce the T in get up instead of blending it away, or how they soften the R in turn off, making the phrase feel more relaxed, more open. These patterns might seem small, but when you begin to mirror them, your spoken English becomes much more pleasant to listen to, more elegant, more natural. Also, learning through British usage gives you access to phrases and expressions that feel very connected to daily life in the UK. You start to hear things like, "I'll pop over later," or "let's check out that new cafe." These aren't just technically correct, they're what people actually say. And when you use them in the same way, it gives your English a richness and authenticity that stands out. There's also confidence that comes with that. When you pronounce something the way native speakers do, it feels smoother in your mouth, you don't hesitate as much, you feel proud of how it sounds, and that confidence shows. Whether you're speaking in a classroom, at work, online, or just with friends, having that authentic pronunciation makes people stop and listen. It shows that you're not just learning English, you're living it. You're embracing the culture, the sound, and the rhythm of the language in a way that feels genuine, and the more you do that, the more elegant and expressive your speech becomes, perfect for students, professionals, and anyone wanting to elevate their spoken English. The beauty of phrasal verbs lies in their versatility. They're not just for one type of learner or for specific age groups. Whether you're a student working through school assignments, a young professional navigating meetings and interviews, or simply someone who wants to speak more clearly and naturally in English, these everyday phrases have something valuable to offer. They help you speak in a way that's more relaxed, more fluent, and more human, which is exactly what real communication is all about. For students, phrasal verbs make classroom learning more practical. Instead of just memorizing formal expressions, you get to learn how people actually speak. When writing or giving presentations, a student might use hand in instead of submit, or look up when doing research. These small shifts make a big difference. They turn stiff, textbook English into the kind of language that fits real life situations. And more importantly, when students use these expressions in their own sentences, they build fluency, which creates more confidence, especially during speaking exams or interactive lessons. For professionals, the use of phrasal verbs adds a layer of polish and approachability. In workplaces where English is the medium of communication, clarity matters, but so does tone. Saying something like, "Let's finish off this task before lunch," sounds more collaborative and natural than saying, "Let's complete the task." Similarly, in a team meeting, you might say, "Let's check out the new report," instead of "Let's examine the report." The tone becomes more inclusive, more casual, and yet still professional. These expressions are not only correct, they're effective. And it's not just about how we speak to others, but how we think in English. When you start using phrases like "give up," "go out," or "keep up," they become part of how you express your goals, your actions, and your daily routines. You don't need to mentally translate from your native language every time you speak. The language becomes internal, you live in it. Whether you're planning your week, talking to classmates or coworkers, or simply chatting with friends, using phrasal verbs helps you stay connected to the moment without overthinking your words. Even outside of academic or work settings, these phrases support everyday interactions. At the grocery store, you might pick up something. Planning a weekend with friends, you might say, "Let's go out," or "come over." These are the real tools of modern English communication, and mastering them helps you fit in more smoothly with native speakers. No matter where you are or what you're doing, you don't need to sound overly formal. You just need to sound real. That's where these verbs shine. Phrasal verbs also make your speech more dynamic. Instead of long, stiff expressions, you have short, powerful alternatives. Turn off the TV, log into the site, miss out on the opportunity. These are not just easy to say. They're the way native speakers naturally talk. That rhythm, that ease, is what so many learners strive for. And the great thing is, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be consistent in your practice, and the results will follow. And for anyone learning English as a second language, this consistency is key. It's not about memorizing endless lists, it's about hearing the phrases used in real-life examples, saying them aloud, repeating them in daily conversations, and slowly making them part of your own speech. The more you do that, the more you grow in fluency, in confidence, and in expression. Whether you're preparing for an exam, joining a meeting, giving a presentation, or having a casual chat, these phrasal verbs give you a toolkit for sounding authentic and connected. What's really special is that once you understand how these phrases work, you can begin to play with them. You'll recognize when to say come over versus go out, or when it feels more natural to say do up instead of decorate. And with every new phrase you learn, your English becomes not just correct, but alive with personality. So no matter who you are or why you're learning English, mastering these everyday phrasal verbs is one of the simplest, smartest ways to elevate the way you speak. By learning these verbs, girls can express emotions, actions, and ideas more clearly and stylishly. When we speak, we're not just passing on information, we're sharing parts of ourselves, our moods, our personalities, our attitudes. And the way we use language reflects all of that. That's why phrasal verbs are so powerful. They let us speak with flair, with feeling, and with a style that feels true to who we are. For girls learning English, mastering these everyday phrases offers not just fluency, but freedom, the freedom to say exactly what you mean, how you mean it, with words that feel alive and relatable. Think about a moment when you're excited. Instead of saying, I ate a lot, you say, I pigged out on chocolate cake. That little phrase, pigged out, is playful, it's informal, and it tells your listener more than just what happened. It shares how it felt. You're letting your personality shine through, and that's what makes conversations so enjoyable. It's not about sounding perfect. It's about sounding real, or take a phrase like give up. It doesn't just mean to stop something. It can carry frustration, determination, even vulnerability. If a girl says, I was struggling with math, but I didn't give up, she's not just sharing a fact, she's sharing a feeling. That's what good communication does. It paints emotions clearly. And phrasal verbs are one of the best tools for doing that in English. There's also beauty in how simply they let you describe your actions. Everyday things become easier to talk about. Wake up, log in, go out, turn off. These phrases are light, quick, and intuitive. You don't need complicated sentences to express yourself. You just need the right phrase. And when you have that, you sound more confident, more in control of your words. Even a simple moment like getting ready can become expressive with the right language. Instead of saying, I tied my shoes, you can say, I did up my laces. It adds a touch of style, something a little more graceful, a little more natural. That's what phrasal verbs give you. Not just function, but flow. And for girls who love expressing themselves clearly and with charm, that kind of flow makes all the difference. And then there's the emotional side. A lot of these phrases aren't just about actions, they help us talk about feelings in a way that sounds effortless. If something makes you upset, you don't need to say, it affected me emotionally. You can say, I couldn't get over it. Or if someone said something rude, instead of explaining how you processed it, you might simply say, I brushed it off. Those phrases hold emotion, they carry tone, and using them shows emotional intelligence as well as language skill. Learning to speak this way also opens up creativity. You're not stuck repeating the same expressions. You can change your tone just by switching verbs. Saying, let's jazz up the room, sounds totally different from let's decorate the room. It feels more energetic, more expressive. It shows a playful attitude, and that matters because our word choices reflect how we want to be seen and heard, and it goes even deeper than that. When you use phrasal verbs naturally, you're able to communicate in a way that builds trust and connection. You sound like someone who knows how to handle a conversation. You understand when to be light, when to be serious, when to be fun. It's like having a collection of colors for your voice. You're not stuck with black and white. You get to paint with emotion, with movement, with style. Even in difficult situations, these phrases can help soften what you say while still being clear. Saying, I've decided to knock off work early today, sounds much more approachable than, I am leaving work earlier than scheduled. One feels rigid, the other feels human. That human side of communication, the emotional, relatable, easygoing side, is exactly what phrasal verbs help unlock. So when a girl learns these verbs, she's not just adding words to her vocabulary. She's building her voice, a voice that's capable of expressing ideas with clarity, expressing emotions with honesty, and doing it all with a sense of ease and personal flair. Thank you so much for joining this lesson. We've explored how mastering phrasal verbs can help you sound confident, natural, and truly expressive in English, especially when using British pronunciation and real-life examples. Whether you're a student, a working professional, or simply someone who loves learning, these everyday verbs are here to make your English clearer, more stylish, and more relatable. Remember, every phrasal verb you learn is another step toward fluency. Keep practicing, keep speaking, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's how real progress happens. The more you use them, the more they'll become part of your voice, helping you express not just your thoughts, but your personality, emotions, and energy. So, until next time, keep it light, keep it lovely, and most importantly, keep speaking English with confidence and joy. See you soon.